All right, everybody on YouTube, welcome to the Daily Space Weather Sunday Special Edition here live stream. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Let's do it. Getting back to the sun here. It's 94 angstroms. And by the way, if you're wondering what we're listening to, it's molybdenum 99. I'm just going to turn that down a tad. You can find that and other tracks in the links below the video. You can see that C-class solar flare that happened yesterday in this video. And let's move on to more stuff as there's lots of things to cover. First, the GOES magnetometer, there's the data from that. Here's the more visually interesting Gong 2 data. And we see the entire current sheet charged up by the North Pole now. Probably an indication the North Solar Polar Field is strengthening or the South Solar Pole's weakening. And we don't really see any big updates yet on that. I'll do some research within the next week to figure out what the current state of the field strength is, as it's tough to just guess by looking at the data that we look at daily. Here's the line of sight field plot. And you see all this activity in the northern hemisphere, but not that much of an effect on the B field, which we show here in blue. All right, let's get to some more visual stuff here. There is a coronal mass ejection building. It is in the Earth-facing region, so we're looking at the view here from stereo A. And no, Mercury is not a spaceship. For anybody who thinks Mercury is a spaceship, it is not a spaceship. And we'll just leave this on here for a moment. Thanks for leaving a comment, Kimberly. For the rest of you viewers, especially if you're viewing live, if you want to affect the coverage because you have a question, comment, etc., leave us a comment and I'll respond to it at a later time. Again, we see this buildup of plasma out here, and that's going to release. Some of that's probably going to be headed the earthly facing direction, and we'll be keeping an eye on that for you as that occurs. Now, going back to the SDO, here's the current state of affairs with the fields. Let's hit refresh. There you go. There's the current state of affairs with the fields. And sunspot 2770 is still a beta class sunspot, as we do still have two umbral field polarities there. So here's the fade from 304 angstroms to 171. There's the current image. And we've got some customs. Some great customs today. Please leave a comment if watching these videos is a custom. So here we've got the SOHO LASCO C2 coronagraph at the same time as the 304 angstroms view. And the earthly scale, you can see how small planet Earth is in reference to the local star. Next, looking at just a 304 angstroms view of the North Pole. Really the entire northern hemisphere of the local yellow dwarf. A bunch of activity there. 3 different active regions, 2 of which are former sunspots. Before we move on, let me just make sure the stream is doing well and recommend everybody leave a comment. And thanks again, Kimberly. Next, looking at the 171 angstroms view of the exact same time frame in the same region, the northern hemisphere of the sun, we do see a little bit of crown prominence up near the northern solar polar field area. And that's a good thing, folks. That's a sign of increased solar activity, like the sunspots and like the radio flux. And let's move on to even more stuff. 10.7 centimeter radio flux now up to 75. And the last time we saw a monthly value that high was all the way back in probably 2017. Let's see. Last time we saw a monthly value a smooth monthly value of 75 was, yeah, back in 2017. So we don't have that yet. We only have one day with a radial flux of 75. So let's keep an eye on it. When I say eye on, well, the pun obviously is intentional. KP index is at 0, and we see a very, very weak solar wind. Despite some X-ray flaring, we see the solar wind density has dropped down to practically nothing. Less than 1 proton per cubic centimeter may be reported in a moment. So there you see the X-ray flux has returned to more of a baseline level. And by the way, I am expecting more solar flares out of sunspot 2770, as it shows no sign of losing that trailing opposite polarity umbra. Proton flux is flatline, no surprise there. By the way, we have power outages in the US once again. 43,000 reported out in Jersey, 154,000 reported out in New York, and 180,000 reported out in Connecticut. Now, Peter Schiff didn't produce a podcast until last night, I think, and it had to do with his power outages in Connecticut. He couldn't even get a cell phone signal. He had to go someplace else to even get data onto his cell phone to do things like emails. So his office was shut down and his house was shut down, running only on a generator. So anyway, we'll talk about Peter Schiff in a moment, a little bit later during the Smash Lights segment. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind. And we've got this phi angle that's been shifty for the last couple of days. Yesterday we reported some very shifty solar wind, and now it's just ramped down to practically nothing. It's, again, less than 1 proton per cubic centimeter, 0.8 protons per cubic centimeter. We have a phi angle associated with magnetic solar connections here. That 180-degree phi angle indicates that the protons have a certain orientation, one pointing directly back at the solar equator. Next, looking at the speed here, we see that's come way down to 343 kilometers per second, so we're at background levels here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see big electron spikes once again, as we saw a lot of incoming protons. Next, we're going to look at the density and the velocity and the pressure here, starting with the velocity. And this is a geospace magnetosphere movie. You're looking at an area many times the diameter of the Earth. And if you could see this with the naked eye, if you could see Jupiter's magnetosphere with the naked eye, it would be about the size of the full moon. So just to give you some perspective of how large planetary magnetospheres are, as Jupiter just looks basically like a point of light with the naked eye, it would be the size of the full moon if you could see the potential magnetic field force lines. Anyway, there's the velocity, and you can see that effect of that very low velocity. Here's the very low density. So we've got a very weak magnetosphere and a KP index at 0 right now. And I'm going to go back and we're going to cover cosmic rays real quick. Anyway, here's 4 hours of data on the magnetohydrodynamic density. And this is basically just protons per cubic centimeter. And the scale goes from 0 to 4. Keep in mind the light is the low density. And lastly, the pressure. You're going to see this drop right off a cliff here at the end as we're getting these variations in the solar wind. And the variations are all down in density and down in velocity. You can see those large Van Allen belts there, making for large empty looking spaces here. That's the plasma spheres. And those are very large. We've got a lot of electrons out there, which is a good thing, by the way. And there you see the pressure just drop right off a cliff. And before we look at ground magnetic perturbations, thanks everybody for leaving comments. Holla to Daz Brown and Nabo J. Thanks for leaving comments. Coming a little closer to home here to look at the ground magnetic perturbations as we do daily. That is every time I don't screw up. Now, I won't be viewing the live premiere with you folks today, obviously, because I'm doing the video live. It's partly because we're so late, and partly because we want to always keep putting exclusive content on all the sites. Anyway, there's 4 hours of ground magnetic perturbations, and you actually do see some there. And those are things like direct solar magnetism, most likely, as we're not really seeing a lot of induction here. So Keep in mind, the source of the electrons that are measured in the Van Allen belt are up for debate. And before we move on to the smash lights, again, I'm going to check comments. Again, anybody that has a question, comment, etc., please leave one. We will feature it on the screen. So we've moved on to another episode of the Smash Lights, and this one will be exclusive to this video. It won't be clipped or posted anyplace else, only here on YouTube. So if you want to show somebody today's Smash Lights segment, you'll have to show them this live stream. Today we're going to talk about the smAsho mission, and you can, if you want to read up the whole thing for yourself, it's at smashomash.com/forum/mission. We put this graphic there just to give people an idea of what it is we're doing. And today, once again, we're going to be talking about adapting no matter what the adversity is, no matter if it's inflation or overreaching governments or war or solar flares or famine or pestilence or whatever. You can adapt and survive and save lives and resources and reduce your risk and liability, no matter what the liability is, even if the liability are these two geniuses, former NCAA linebacker Dr. Rachel Levine and Pennsylvania's top COVID idiot, who listens to what Dr. Rachel Levine says about epidemiology, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf. Let's talk about an overreacher in Belarus. Shout out to Eugene Bagashov, otherwise known as Eugene the Philosopher. We're hoping your election turns out well. Here's an article from BBC about Lukashenko, which, by the way, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya is now running against him, the unlikely candidate whose husband was jailed prior to the election, along with all of the other top candidates. So it's an interesting day in Belarus. Belarus, as described by one of its inhabitants, Eugene Bagashov, as the most Soviet of the former Soviet states. Lukashenko's been in power for 26 years, I believe it is. The longest standing bureaucrat in Europe. If you've got a case for term limits, it's going to include this guy. Now, he used to be a former Soviet. He's a former Soviet farm manager. Probably one of the guys who the government confiscated farms from people who know how to use them and then handed it to this guy. Now, whether he's good at his job, I have no idea. But there's some interesting stories about it. And I want to just talk about, for a quick moment, Deutsche Welle. So dw.com, Deutsche Welle. It's a very interesting news site. I highly recommend it. Now, I've been familiar with this since the early 90s when I took German class in high school. And yes, use cookies, Deutsche Welle. I don't mind. Anyway, Deutsche Welle appears to be a quite objective news source, as there are some very ethical people in Europe, believe it or not. And I'm quite familiar with Europe and Euros, as I have tons of friends over there, and I've been to Germany and Austria, and I've been a gamer for a long time. So a lot of my gaming pals are indeed Euros. Euro pals, such as Eugene Bagashov. And he is a gamer, too. We got to try to get him playing enemy territory. But so anyway, now I don't know how much you know about Lukashenko, but he's, I think he might have been making out with Putin just before or after this photo was taken. I'm not exactly sure. It looks horrifying. So we're wishing Belarus all the best in today's election, which is, by the way, widely feared to be about to be rigged. So we're hoping that doesn't happen. But there's already some damage done, as people have been locked up. So best of luck to Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. Let's talk about Governor Wolf. Now, Governor Wolf in Pennsylvania has decided to, despite all kinds of preparation by school districts and athletic associations and so on, to have sports in the fall. Tom Wolf has just flapped his lips and shut down all of that by fiat. So anyway, to quote U.S. Representative Dan Mueser, I'm going to say Moiser, the Euro pronunciation. I was taken by surprise, as many of us were, by Governor Wolf's recommendation that Pennsylvania schools delay interscholastic sports until January 1st. Since it makes no sense, why not just delay it until Election Day? Schools across the Commonwealth have invested significant time and effort to develop health and safety protocols to protect student athletes. By the way, they're doing Grand Tour racing in Europe right now. For instance, the Strada Bianche is a race that happened. And guess how many masks were worn by the riders? Bzzz, 0. Back to Mr. Moiser's comments. The governor should partner with the PIAA to develop a smart and safe plan to accomplish the goal as students begin their return to the classroom. Offering no plan, and he hasn't offered a plan since the beginning of the scamdemic, is not acceptable to the thousands of students, parents, and coaches who have expressed their desire to play sports this coming semester. So well done, U.S. Representative Dan Moiser from, I believe, Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. Holla! Maybe I'll have to look you up and see if I can get the government off of my back. Let's talk about wokeness. Now, that object right there, that's known as NGC 2392, which people used to refer to as the smAsho Nebula. But now we can't say that anymore because it's considered an offensive term. Now, I don't know any Inuit people or Native Americans who reside in Nordic regions, the North Pole area. However, I'd be very interested to know if they're actually offended by this or not. But in any case, NASA is dropping cosmic nicknames because they must make it inclusive. So as of August 1st, it's no longer referred to as the, quote, smAsho Nebula. Now, I'm not familiar with the term Eskimo Nebula. I'm not sure what the term Eskimo actually means. Maybe they're going to rename it the Inuit Nebula. I don't know why it's called that. Is it because it looks like an igloo or it looks like a guy wearing a jacket? I don't understand why it's called that. But in any case, apparently they're going to have to get rid of the name. They're going to get rid of the name Siamese Twins Galaxy. Just in case you're attached by the spine to somebody, you wouldn't want to look at this, as you could be very offended. Oh, let's bring up the chat and see if anybody has any opinions on that stuff. What do you think about the oh, that's right, yes, and thanks for reminding me, Nabo J. See, this is how important the chat is. Thanks for reminding me, Nabo J, about vodka and saunas. So that is the most amazing thing. Vodka and saunas, yes. I am freaking stoked about that. That just like made my day. Yeah, vodka and saunas. So anybody who doesn't know that story, Lukashenko, months ago, and I think we covered it actually briefly on one of the Daily Space Weather videos, Lukashenko stated that he's discovered a cure for the COVID, which is sauna and vodka. So just take your vodka, take vodka in sauna, and you cure COVID. Yeah? So yeah, thanks for the reminder on that on that one. And yeah, vodka and sauna. It's the best. So sorry you didn't get any notification there, Mr. Keebs. Let's talk about inflation as we show you this horrifying building, which for those of you who know about inflation, this is where your dollars are being devalued by an organization known as the Federal Reserve, who writes checks with no balance in the accounts. They're the leading inflators in the world. Well, maybe not the leading inflators in the world, but speaking of inflation and big government, Trump has signed executive orders on coronavirus relief and payroll tax. So Trump has suspended the payroll tax without any input of Congress, and I'm not going to get into the viability of that, as some of us have already stopped paying taxes because of the events of this year. So a lot of us won't be affected by this. Whether or not I've stopped paying taxes, it's a secret. But in any case, a lot of people may feel like there's a bit of a bit of taxation without representation going on. So the point of the matter is, inflation is the ultimate hidden tax, and it hurts the poor and the elderly far more than everybody else, as they have less of the dollars that are being inflated. And a lot of people have a misnomer. A lot of people have a misconception about what they think inflation is. Some people think inflation is rising prices, and that's not fundamentally true. That's like saying that the sun's electric, which is also not fundamentally true, although what's going on the surface does have electric properties. So the point I'm making is that you've got at least 10% inflation already. The U.S. government has not slowed down its spending. In fact, changes to banking rules have basically opened the floodgates for hyperinflation. The government needs to reel in spending, which is something people have been saying for the last 20 years, but the spending just keeps going up and up on a magnitudinal scale. So, even here on Investopedia, they muddy the waters by saying inflation is a quantitative measure of the rate at which average price increases. And that simply isn't true, because inflation is an increase in the number of dollars, which requires a completely different. You're changing the entire supply-demand curve itself by messing with the number of dollars in circulation. So this is a very badly understood thing, as when your prices go up, it's a result of your dollars losing value. And dollars have lost over 98% of their value since 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was signed into policy. It's what we call Keynesian economics. So, the question you must ask yourself is, will we see a scene like this? Will we get a modification to Mount Rushmore? I'm just going to leave that on the screen for a moment. And laugh and laugh. Will he be George Washington's right-hand man? Are George Washington's lapels shown there in relief on the Mount Rushmore? I've never seen it in person. I would be delighted to have a picnic on Abraham Lincoln's sideburn. Anyway, allegedly, South Dakota governor. Oh man! Apparently, South Dakota governor. What's her name? I can't remember. Has created a 4-foot replica of Mount Rushmore with Trump added on. Oh man, I wish I get an image of that. I mean, this isn't the real. This isn't the real mock-up. So, anyway. Thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the content. And please consider becoming a patron. Help them out as they help us out. Tell your science noobs, your science pros, as we are pushing the boundaries of the cutting edge stuff here. So please help to support us, as we're tanking over here. And we need a lot of help from you, especially to not only just to share the videos, but to financially support us. So whether it's through Patreon or whatever, we are tanking, and the probability of these videos continuing on is decreasing promptly. And part of it has to do with government overreach, shockingly enough. We're also on Subscribestar. There are other links below the video also. Now, we usually stream to Twitch. We put up an exclusive stream today on Twitch to tell Twitch that we're exclusively streaming here to YouTube and not putting up anything on BitChute either. So if you're a BitChute user, well, you're not seeing this right now. We'll put up a video directing our BitChute users later to view the exclusive YouTube live stream. Please take a moment to press like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And let's talk about, oh my God. Let's talk about, oh my God. Just, oh my God. I seem to have misplaced something, folks. But it's okay, because I'll find it again. And then I'll talk about God. Now, the reason that I say, oh my God, is because I don't want to be like super controversial. And I say, oh my God, because I think Gond is hilarious. Gond is it's a Dungeons and Dragons deity. And it's in reference to the lawful neutral alignment, one of the most boring alignments on the game. Keebler says that the governor's model has Trump on the side of Abe, which looks like a worse spot to put it because I don't think it would fit there. But anyway. So Gond is the wonder bringer. And we used to make fun of this deity constantly when I was a dungeon master. This would be like in giant metropolis towns. You would see these giant temples with all this machinery and all these well-equipped guards around. They're all Gond cultists, and it's the most boring, lawful, neutral. Like they're not even aligned in terms of good and evil, just following laws. It's so lame. So that's why I say, oh my God, all the time. I'm not making fun of religion or anything like that. Speaking of religion, have you noticed how science has become religion in the U.S.? Not to mention things like climate change. What a joke. It's a religion of propaganda, where people find it very easy to believe lies and find it very hard to convince me of them, which creates, let's just say, some rifts. According to these epidemiologists, masks don't work. Yes, who could have guessed? Now, some people were out here telling you the truth about COVID-19 since January 23rd. People like me. And apparently these Danish health officials, and by the way, most Euros are not wearing masks ever when they go outside now. Again, there is World Cup bike racing happening in Europe. So for all the fear-mongering that's happening, a lot of Americans think that there are 243 times as many deaths as there actually are in the U.S. As fear-mongering goes on and on, idiots are standing alone in front of cameras with masks on their faces.
This is one of the most powerful weapons we have in the fight against COVID-19.
This is one of the most powerful weapons we have against propaganda. Watching our channel and seeing me debunk idiots like this.
This is opening day of Trader Joe's. And
oh my God. Karen. Please leave Karen, stop Karening. The woman could have COPD or something, and she doesn't have to tell you. Have you ever heard of HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996? Anyway, masks don't work. They're totally stupid. It's a COVIDiotic idea, wearing masks. What do you dudes say? Yeah, thanks everybody for joining into the live stream chat and leaving comments. Cheers, everybody. If you haven't headed to smashamash.com/forum, check it out. We're now up to over 1,400 users. Thanks, Nabo J, for talking about Egon Bernal. Now, I'm not a fan of the team, Team Ineos, formerly Team Sky. There are issues with that team. I won't get into it on this video. But let's talk about some local cyclists, as I live in one of the most significant... Anyway, there's an image of Egon Bernal, the Colombian rider, who I do like, by the way. Let's talk about some local riders. It's Olympian Bobby Lee and son of Hall of Fame cyclist Jack Symes Jr. Jack Symes Jr. And here's them following the successful defending of their Madison National Championships in 2013.
Less still an effort than you might think, and it is more fun than you might think, so enjoy some exhilaration.
And we can't hear him as they're interviewing him over the loudspeaker, while the loudspeaker plays. And we'll be featuring more local cyclists. Now, we watched another movie last night, and we've got some more updates here. Holla! We've got a movie recommendation section also on the forum, so go check that out if you haven't yet. Smash staff, put up the last 2 movies we watched, yeah? And oh my God, now stuff is getting serious. Holy cripes. Stuff is getting serious, folks. I've got a bunch of crap hanging above my head, is honestly what's going on. I mean, I got a bunch of crap. I have this wand, this UV wand, which has got me going, oh. Thanks to Rob for sending these UV wands. Robera, well done. Back with you, evil COVID. Oh my God. All right. Yeah, so what was I talking about? I don't even remember at all. Oh, right, the scary, spooky COVID. Let's talk about something not scary and spooky, the Peter Schiff Show. If you don't listen to what Peter Schiff is saying about economics, well, this is part of the reason. He's not really part of the reason. It's because I understand economics too, which is why I agree with 99% of the stuff Peter Schiff says. He's talking about the way modern economists are idiots and do not even understand what inflation is. Here's a clip.
But only as the result of inflation, which it had already defined.
Which it had already defined as an increase in the amount of dollars in the money supply. I've argued with idiots on Facebook over this repeatedly, and they don't seem to understand it. They think that the government can just, that it has deep pockets, that it can just print money forever. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about the smAsho VoIP line. I've got the phone right here. See that? There's one of my beater phones, one of my backups, and that has a smAsho VoIP line. If you'd like to send me a breaking news story or something like that, if you've got some kind of crazy, if you see a spaceship flying around the back of the sun or some other nonsense like that, feel free to drop me a line. It's country code +1, area code 610-936-9799. That's country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. And by the way, a bunch of our users text me all the time. Shout out to all y'all who felt the need to send texts or call on the smAsho VoIP line. Yes, nay. Schiff does say Biden is going to win the election, which I find to be ridiculous, and that's part of that 1% of things that we disagree about. If you haven't checked out smAshomash.org, check that out. SMASH staff has been vigilant in putting up new content here on the regs nearly every day. Check out our affiliate. It's located at smAshomash.com/affiliate. Yes, it's the verb form, folks. We've got the pulse oximeter. It's the Zacurate DL. And by the way, it's made in Texas. If you're wondering if it's made in China, it's not made in China, okay? It's made in Texas. I read the label. It's right there in the back, but I got it inside a case. It's not made in China, it's made in Texas. We're also advertising the amino acid L-lysine, as it's an essential amino acid that you can't produce in your own body, and you got to get it from your food. And man, my specific blood oxygen was at 99% there for a minute, and then it came down to 98 because I was breathless while talking to our viewers. We're also advertising MSM, methylsulfonomethane, almond flour, which is a great alternative to breadcrumbs in your rubs for your meats, and we're going to be putting up entire recipes soon in our videos. We actually already have a playlist for ownage food and drink. We were keeping it simple. We're going to start getting complex. We've also got the calcium, zinc, and magnesium, which again, we're not advertising any items that I don't personally use, as well as the Shugu, which has just shipped yesterday. It's on the way. We've also opened 2 more storefronts. So because of popular demand for different designs here, we've got a new storefront. It's teespring.com/stores/smAsho store. teespring.com/stores/smAsho store. So there you can see the link. And we've put up 5 designs, and this one just went up this morning. This is the original design with the smAshomash.org design added. We've also got the Eugene Bagashov edition of the 3C405 shirt, because Eugene doesn't like my graphic design, so I made the shirt in only white if you're feeling virginal or girly colors, just specifically for Eugene, as well as the 3C405 shirt, the regular 3C405 shirt, which we're offering in a variety of colors. We've also got the Smash team, which has the website on the A, looking like it's embossed into metal, and also the Google is a scam, not a verb, smAshomash.org shirt. So pick one of those up if you haven't yet, and here ends yet another episode of the Smash Lights, part of the daily Smash stream. And yes, I tend to agree, again, about the idea that Biden isn't winning any elections. Presidents during times of crises almost always get reelected. It's It's well over 80% depending on what you define as a crisis. Oh, and by the way, there's my blood oxygen levels. Again, the Zacurate 500DL is made in Texas, and it comes with batteries. And it comes with this lovely lanyard that you can disconnect. So if you got to stick it on a patient or something like that, somebody feels like they're out of breath, they're wearing a cloth mask, and their blood oxygen is down to 80%, don't let them faint. Anyway, we see these very high electron flux levels, the highest we've seen here since February, it looks like. And we're back into warning levels again. We didn't send this to patrons this morning because we were busy making the video. We're at about around 3 times the alert level here. And there's the graph on the GOES electron flux. And let me just check this, the stream of the live of the stream. All right, and here's the total electron content forecast. We show this daily to show you the full air column. And we see quite high levels of electron flux here. You may see some GPS errors. And you won't have to be in the tropics today to see some GPS errors. Some big ones over northern India and the Himalayas, as well as Central Africa. So significant electron flux will create significant GPS errors. And if you don't have your location services turned on that uses Wi-Fi to triangulate your position, you may end up with some serious errors if you're only using GPS. The forecast models are forecasting it to level out, and this is where I disagree. I think this is going to actually go into even higher levels today. So we'll show you the results of that in tomorrow's daily space weather. Here's the ionosphere. Now we're just looking at one layer, and we see actually a highly discharged sun-facing portion there at the beginning. Fairly discharged period here. Here's the latest image. It's going to be one of the latest ones we've shown in a long time. At 11:30 UT, looks like we have some measuring errors here, and that could be a result of electron flux, believe it or not. Whenever you see a line like that right on a meridional line, that's typically not going to be a legit measurement, as these blob-like shells of different levels of charged material in the ionosphere do not align to meridional lines. Here's where stuff is in the solar system, if you were wondering. And here's Mercury. And if you're wondering where stereo A is located, well, let me inform you. It's right around here at Lagrange. I guess it's Lagrange 4. I was told it's Lagrange 5. I don't know. Lagrange 4, Lagrange 5. Who the hell cares? Stereo A is out here. That's the point. And you notice, making a line from there, you see how Mercury has just moved behind the sun? Well, I'm not going to mention other pathetic YouTube channels that make thousands of dollars per month to lie to you and talk complete nonsense about spaceships projecting birds and clouds are spaceships and all kinds of insanity like this. Check it out. Mars and the moon were conjoined. I didn't even know. And it's too late to see them now as it's fully light out. I actually see sunlight out the window. Let's look at the past 24 hours of earthquakes as this video is getting long. We don't see anything over a 6 magnitude, but here's an oddity. Very far south in the central mid-Atlantic ridge, it's a 4.9 magnitude. We see some Aleutian quakes here, including this 5.5 out in the central Aleutian island chain. Here's a deep quake at Indonesia. Oh, what do we have here? Check it out. It's a 2.6 at Sparta, North Carolina. Shout out to our North Carolinian viewers. Right near Stone Mountain State Park. I'll bet there's some great bike riding there. Right near the Virginia border. Not a very big quake. Leave us a comment if you felt it. And let's get back to the list here. If the website would function, I would be delighted. Ah, it's opened a tab. Thanks, USGS. Please leave a comment if you think it should be changed to the USDS, the United States Downgrade Service. All right, and let's get up the list here. There's another deep quake. It's nearly 300 kilometers near the northern Mariana Islands, not to be confused with marinara sauce. And here's the day's earthquake rundown. I mean, volcano rundown at volcanodiscovery.com. Nishinoshima still erupting, producing a 13,000-foot ash plume. It's exploding. Sakurajima has been erupting. Currently, volcanic ash not identifiable in satellite imagery. Please don't pole vault the caldera. It could be unhealthful. Semeru's exploding. Flight level 130. Carinthia exploding. At least emitting an ash plume to the tune of 15,000 feet of altitude. Fuego exploding. Flight level 150. Sangay exploding. Flight level 200. That's 20,000 feet. Sabancaya exploding. Puff emissions have produced a 23,000 foot above altitude cloud of volcanic ash. And while Villarrica does not show volcanic ash detected on things like satellite images, please do not attempt to do the triple Lindy over Villarrica. It could be unhealthful. And we see some odd warnings here, including beach hazard statements near the Missouri-Illinois border. It's up to you to guess what that is. I got nothing to do with that. I'm out. Now we're advancing pressure maps here on windy.com to tomorrow to show you where pressure cells will be at noontime tomorrow on Monday. It's Sunday already, which means tomorrow's Monday already. Sounds like it's time to quit my job. No, I'm serious. I'm not kidding. I may have to file lawsuits instead of going to work. Anyway, here's where stuff is expected to be. And check out this anticyclone down here. How about if we call that the Brian Stelter anticyclone? The Brian Stelter anticyclone here off of the west coast of South America. Looking strong, and Brian Stelter is looking like a dong. Next, looking at jet streams. Hey, jet streams, where are you? There they are. There's the eastern world's jets. They are all over the place. There could be lightning striking in Minsk by now. Don't let that stop you from voting. For all of you who are able to actually see the content in Belarus, there's probably 0 people, except those using VPNs. Anyway, there's the situation in the Western world. And check out that Brian Stelter anticyclone. Oh my God. Here's the surface situation. Holy cripes. It's looking as weak as low T Brian Stelter. Possibly even as weak as Don Lemon. I'm not sure. We got some lightning in the U.S. Let's see what's up. Hey, Springfield, go outside and look to the east. It's probably too far away, but Cape Girardeau, there's thunder rolling in. If you haven't checked it out, next time you hear thunder, check out lightningmaps.org. You can forecast. You can actually forecast thunder and lightning. And man, oh man, I don't know what city's what. I think Minsk is up here. I don't freaking know. I think that's Moscow. And Minsk is like, I don't know where the hell it is. It'd be nice if they would, is that Minsk? Maybe that's Minsk. I don't freaking know. Anyway, I wish they would put the names of the towns in regular letters. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Here are the water vapor maps for Africa and Europe. Here's the chat window. Again, thanks everybody for leaving comments. I'll get back to that in a minute. Here's water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from someplace like India, Pakistan, China, Japan, Philippines. or anywhere on this map. Here's a water vapor map for the Americas. And that Brian Stelter anticyclone is looking kind of weak. Maybe I was too quick to name that one, huh? Or as Mark Dice would say, Brian Stelter! Some heavy storms here, and they're moving in an odd direction. Sweeping across almost the entire state of Minnesota, about to strike Wisconsin. Other storms moving in an odd direction around here. So we got some funky weather kicking off here in the U.S. There's the time and date stamps for the U.S. Doppler radar map. Let's go back, as it's now nearly light, as the sun rises over the East Coast. What do you have in store for today? What does today have in store for you? Again, thanks everybody for leaving comments. I'm going to let this scroll so everybody can see what they've typed. Yes, the drug laws are crazy, aren't they? By the way, all drugs should be legalized. If you're wondering what I think about it, all drugs should be legal. I don't care if it's LSD, meth, cocaine, heroin, it should all be legal, as everybody should have the choice when they're adults to do whatever they want in terms of voluntary transactions. Anyway, there's the visible satellite for once. We rarely show it on the channel because we usually put out content while it's dark. Here's the water vapor map. And we're going to zoom in on Minnesota here, as actually we're going to zoom in on Illinois. Actually, we're going to zoom in on both, because these are both oddities here, and this will give people some clue just by looking at one map, the water vapor map. It's part of the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. And that's broken up a little bit, but the northern portion still has a lot of moisture in it, as you can see those pink colors there. And they're moving north-northeast. And we've actually got both systems there on the one map. So here's a bonus feature for you Mid-Atlantic viewers. And we've got mostly dry air over the Mid-Atlantic. By the way, thanks Smash team. It's time for me to vanish. But don't worry, I'll be back. Thanks for flying, American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times. We've got bonus features. One of which will be the 131 angstroms 48-hour view of the sun from the SDO. We'll have the magnetogram in colorized format, and we can see here that we've got two polarities associated with these umbrae. So we've got some small little umbrae back here that are barely even dark enough to be considered umbrae, and we've got this larger one here, and I say there's going to be more solar flares, at least some B-class flaring, and it all depends on how that plays out. And there you can see there's one umbra that's a little bit stronger than the rest. And the leading umbra is actually breaking in half, so we've got two leading umbrae there now. So it's overall, the thing is weakening. But I still think there's significant possibility for some significant solar flares out of that sunspot, as well as a coronal mass ejection, which is building as we speak. If that releases throughout the day, I'll probably put out another video, as I'll be keeping an eye on it. And when I say eye on, the pun is intentional. So let me just bring up the chat one more time here. Make sure everybody's comments are viewed on the screen. I don't know why the Democrats are coming up with candidates like they're coming up with, but personally, they should have probably nominated Bernie Sanders, believe it or not, despite the fact that I think he's one of the dumbest guys in Washington. he's at least able to complete a coherent sentence and have a conversation with you without being completely confused. Anyway, thanks for your comments, Road Warrior, All the Sun, Mary, Mr. Keebs, Nabo J, everybody else who left comments. We are out. It's about that time. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiocy absent from your universe.